Hi, welcome back to Team TV Deep Dive. I'm your host Alyssa, and here I take my knowledge of psychology and love of TV and combine them to find deeper meanings in the shows I watch. So today's show has gained a lot of popularity among Gen Z and many millennials because we haven't seen a show in our generation that has gained so much popularity and discourse around like this love triangle. I think it's one of the most iconic love triangles in Gen Z's like generation. I think there are a lot of different love triangles that are from the 2000s that are really good as well, but I don't think there's been anything else like this that Gen Z has been able to take part in while it's so current and fresh. And this show is The Summer I Turned Pretty. So we're gonna get into it, take it season by season. So this episode is gonna focus on season one because I do have a lot to say about the show. So before we get into all the thoughts and opinions, I'm gonna give you a brief summary of season one of The Summer I Turned Pretty. So the show follows main character Belly. Belly, her brother Steven, and her mom Laurel are on their way to Cousin's Beach to spend the summer there. There at the beach, they'll meet Laurel's best friend, Susanna, and Susanna's two sons, Conrad and Jeremiah. For as long as Belly can remember, she's been coming to this beach house and spending the summer there. It's something that she really looks forward to every year. And pretty much for Belly's entire life, she's had a crush on Susanna's oldest son, Conrad. This summer is really different. It focuses around Belly's crush on Conrad and kind of about her moving on now that she's pretty and exploring different options and just life now that she's more into her young adulthood. In the first episode, there's a party on the beach, and all of the teenagers are there, both the locals and the people who just kind of come in for the summer are there. And now that Belly's a teenager, she wants to go out more and explore. Normally, when she spends the summer in Cousins, she spends a lot of time with her mom and Susanna, but now she's looking to have more of a nightlife and kind of like a life of her own now that she's a teenager. So she goes there and she meets this boy. His name is Cam, and they hit it off. Turns out that they knew each other from way back when at a 7th grade Latin convention. She kind of likes him and she enjoys her time with him, so she wants to hang out and continue to talk with him. After a little more conversation and talking and getting to know each other, Belly agrees to go on a date with Kim and then go to a drive-in theater. When they go there, it's going really nice until Conrad, Jeremiah, and Steven come and crash Belly's date, and they show up at the drive-in and they kind of try and embarrass her, and she gets upset from that, and it's partially because she feels like no one wants to let her grow up and be her own person. The rest of them kind of get their freedom to have that typical teenage life and things like that, but she feels like she doesn't, so she gets really upset. Conrad calls her childish, and that's something that he calls her a lot throughout the show, which is honestly kind of weird, but it's whatever. So Belly continues to go on a couple of dates with Cameron. He turns out to be her first like boyfriend or whatever, but she's not really feeling him like that. She still has a crush on Conrad and she doesn't really feel ready to move on yet. So she breaks things off with him. And out of nowhere, Jeremiah reveals that he's been feeling Belly, like he has a crush on her, and then they kiss in the pool. But at the same time, throughout the summer, Conrad has been sending Belly these subliminals that he wants to be with her and things like that. And so now she's just conflicted on which brother she should choose because they're both really good guys to her. And she knows that whoever she decides to be with, it'll hurt the other one. And it will kind of mess up this summer that they have. It's kind of like a perfect dream world when they come to this beach house every summer. So now that you know a little bit about the show and what happens in it, we'll kind of get into those themes that we normally get into, like identity, relationships, friendships, and growth. Ellie's identity is definitely a large component of the show, and especially in season one, because you see that Belly is now experiencing a difference between her internal and external identity. because she's pretty much still the same girl and she has all the same interests. She's really into volleyball, she's very smart, she's really sweet and caring and enjoys spending time with Susanna. And she still has a pretty decent relationship with her mom as well. But now that her external has changed and she's seen as pretty and a young woman now, a lot of guys are giving her more attention and just a lot more possible romantic interests in her life that you see are taking prominence over her old life. So now Bellie's still that same girl that she was before, but now that her looks are changed, she's just presented with different obstacles to face and just different opportunities in her life that she didn't know before. So she's kind of struggling between what's really her and what she likes, and she's just exploring what she has in front of her. She's always been seen as a little girl by everyone in the cousin's house, but this summer is really different. There's some expectations that are changing of her as she gets older. There's also just more relationships that are changing in the show. Now moving on into identity versus role confusion. That's a stage in development that many adolescents go through, and that's where you don't really know who you are, but at the same time, you know what you're not. And you just continue to try things and explore until you get that full identity and that sense of who you are. And you can see Belly does that by she tries new things, like she goes to the dev ball, she does partying, like partying on the beach, and she tries to go and have little parties and stuff with the other girls that are participating in the dev stuff, and also dating. You see three relationships that Belly goes through in that summer. First with Cam, then with Jeremiah, and then with Conrad. Each relationship had a different lesson that she learned, as well as just a different dynamic between the two in each relationship. And I think that's really important as you're an adolescent, figuring out who you are, as well as like that ideal relationship for you. Now we're going to move into friendships and relationships. So first, Belly and Taylor. Taylor is Belly's best friend from back home. Taylor's the complete opposite of Belly. She's really popular. She already has a lot of boys' attention prior to Belly's glow up. She kind of always has been like that. She has lots of friends, and she's just the it girl kind of the show per se. And I feel like Taylor kind of had a lot of jealousy and kind of almost animosity towards Belly in season one, because Belly had her own life and she started to make her own friends at cousins, and you had all the relationship drama that was going on between Conrad, Jeremiah, and then Cameron. Even Taylor hasn't had that many guys after her in a short amount of time. So I think when Taylor first came up to Cousins that first time, she was just really jealous and kind of nasty with how she was acting with Belly about her having new friends. I feel like she just wasn't used to seeing Belly thrive without her. She was kind of used to seeing Belly kind of be taken under her wing and kind of fall back when it comes to friends and boys. So she acted a little funny. But she, at the same time, she was Team Jeremiah, and she supported Belly's relationship with Jeremiah way more than she did with Conrad. Even though at the same time she did say, like, if you're gonna go for Conrad, like, if you want him, just go for it. And she was supportive of Belly at times, but I overall didn't really like her that much in season one. She's kind of just nasty about Belly having a life of her own, and I didn't dig that at all. Another relationship we see in The Summeriturnedpretty is the friendship between Susanna and Laurel. I think they're a good example of companionate love. They have that connection and they have a lot of closeness and commitment into being each other's best friends. They have been for a long time. Before all the kids were born, they met in college, and I think they're a good model of friendship. There are hardships and struggles that Laurel faces, and Susanna is there and she supports Laurel, and vice versa. But even when one person is in a better state or just a better stage of their life, and the other person isn't, you don't feel the person who's going through something bad drag the other one down. They're really supportive and positive with each other, and I really like that. I think that's a great example to see of what a friendship should be like in TV. Now we're gonna get into the romantic relationships. I know that's like the juiciest part of the show. So first, you see Kim and Belly dated. They went on a couple of dates, and they kind of just mainly hung out. I feel like he was a really good option and a solid option at that. I feel like he was the best of both worlds. He was smart, kind of like Conrad, and then he was also really positive and upbeat like Jeremiah. I think he was just overall a better option. He also didn't live in the house with Susanna and all of them, and it didn't give borderline incest vibes, because that's another thing that I have with the show, is because if you come there every single summer and you guys live there together, I feel like there should be like a family like dynamic at that point. Not so much to the point where you look at them as romantic options, but I digress. So I thought he was a better option for that reason, but I guess not. The relationship was pretty short-sailed, like it wasn't super serious, but I think it was a good example of what Belly should look for in a relationship. He was really respectful towards her, and I feel like he was just overall really nice and a good guy to have as a first boyfriend before she went through everything that she went through with the two Fisher boys. There's just overall nothing much to say about that relationship. But moving on into Belly and Conrad. Conrad is the oldest of the two brothers. He used to play football. He's really smart, but he quit. And at the beginning of season 1, he had a girlfriend named Nicole. She's the same age as him. And Conrad is like 2 years older than Belly, or something like that. So they're kind of on the same level. But he never really took Nicole seriously at all, really. I feel like he honestly wasted her time and played in her face, because he would be dating Nicole and say that he likes her and things like that, but at the same time he's sending Belly all these mixed messages and like he's flirting with her and basically playing with both of them, like he's playing in both of their faces. So he has an avoidant attachment style, and that's basically where you'll just exit the situation entirely instead of having to make those hard decisions between two options. And you can see that perfectly with the example I stated before. He is in a relationship with Nicole, but you could tell that there were some feelings there and he wanted to explore something with Belly. And instead of either committing to Nicole 100% and stopping the flirtations and all that type of stuff with Belly, or he would break up with Nicole and be honest that he's interested in another girl and go explore that connection with Belly. And he didn't. He did both. And I just didn't like that. Or he'll just shut them both out completely, which is really weird. And I don't like that. Another pet peeve of mine is that he admits that he likes Belly, but he won't fully commit to it. Like throughout the show, you can tell that he does like her, but he kind of holds himself back from it. And the moment that specifically shows that is when Belly and him had almost kissed. And the next day, Belly wanted to talk about it and to ask what happened. And he's like, oh, I was really drunk, blah, blah, blah. And he just shook her off. And another moment when Belly was ready to move on from him and she was done with him, she's like, I don't care about you, Conrad. He's like, Belly, you know I think about you, like, you know I do. And it's just kind of weird, because when she has one foot out the door, it's all this love and affection that he has for her. But when she's there and she's ready for him, he just doesn't care about her. He is really just cold, and I don't like that. I think a main source to their problem is peripheral route to persuasion. And that's where you might take body language, emotional cues, subtle phrases that a person may say, facial expressions, or things like that, and you make a full assumption based off of those small things. It might not even be the case, but you do. And I think that's the downfall to Belly and Conrad, because they're two overthinkers. Like, it can't be two overthinkers in a relationship. It's never going to work out. And a lot of times they'll both read into a really small detail about the other one, and then they'll make up this big assumption about their relationship or how the other one feels towards them, and it just blows up and creates problems or creates distance. And I think that's a large part of why they don't work out. It's just overall a lack of communication between the two, and it's really detrimental to their relationship and their connection. Now we're going to talk about Belly and Jeremiah. So Belly and Jeremiah have always been friends, while Stephen and Conrad outcast Belly and kind of treat her like she's the baby of the house. Jeremiah has always been a friend to her and has always been there by her side and that emotional support that she's needed throughout the years. The relationship kicked off when there's a moment that they were in the pool. It didn't really have any build up before that, but they were in the pool and it was late at night, and Jeremiah was like, Belly, there's sometimes that I've always wanted us to be more than friends. And then he kisses her, and it's a really iconic moment. Are we still friends? By Tyler, the creator, plays in the background. And it's just a really cool moment. But a couple days after they kissed, Jeremiah wanted to have a talk about like what happened, where Belly is at, where he's at, and things like that. I feel like that's a great example of his secure attachment style. He is very honest and he's open when he communicates, and I think that makes him like a really good boyfriend and just an overall love interest in the show. But there are pros and cons to every relationship and love interest. So some of the cons I think to Jeremiah is the just world phenomenon, and that's where if you think everything works out for the best, good things get good rewards, bad things get bad punishments, and that's just not how it always works out. And a lot of times you can see that Jeremiah is shaken by that when things go wrong because he's such a kind person and puts positivity out into the world. But when things don't go his way, he's kind of shaken and just emotionally taken by that. And you can see that at the Night of the Dead Ball. Spoiler if you haven't seen all of season 1 of The Summer I Turned Pretty. So here's your warning to pause now if you don't want to hear a spoiler. But now, when Jeremiah finds out that Susanna's cancer has come back again, he's really emotional and sad, and he reveals it to everyone because he was emotionally stirred up inside. He revealed it to everyone that she had cancer again, and it was like this whole big moment. Whereas Conrad, when he found out a really long time ago, and that's part of why he's been so moody this summer, is because he's been working over all that emotional turmoil that's going on inside. But Jeremiah makes a big deal out of it. And he's shocked because he feels like his mom is a nice person, he's a nice boy. Why is she sick again? And it really just deterred him a lot. Now into the next part of growth in the show. And I'm gonna be honest, like, Belly still has a long way to go. But to be fair, we're just talking about season 1, and you can't expect a kid to go through a lot of growth in just one season. That's kind of unrealistic. But you can tell that Belly definitely has more confidence in herself after going through the dead ball, some partying, and things like that. She's kind of made her own sense of self and identity when she's there, and Cousins, she's more like outgoing and she has more friends there, and she kind of has like dated around a little bit more, so she's not as nervous when it comes to talking to boys and things like that. And she's learned to go for what she wants. At the beginning, it was Conrad, but then she kind of wanted to move on from him. So then she explored things with Cameron, and she wanted him, and she went for it, and he responded back positively. Even though the relationship didn't work out, she still got a good like result out of it. And same thing with Conrad, as season 1 does end with them being currently in a relationship, and she went for it, and she got it. So the growth section of this episode is pretty short, like I said, because it's not over and she still has a long way to go. But now we're going to get into my favorite part, and it's whose team I'm on. I feel like it's kind of obvious if you listen throughout the episode, but Jeremiah. I'm Team Jeremiah because I feel like he has better communication out of the two, and he's more fun. Um, he's really easygoing. He knows how to be the life of the party, and I think when you're in a young relationship and like a teenage relationship, you shouldn't have to go through like a whole lot of psychological warfare that Conrad has going on over there. I feel like you should just have fun together, be open, and grow together. And he's also really supportive of Belly, like with the whole dead ball thing. Belly's mom wasn't sure about it, but Jeremiah, on the other hand, was supportive about it, and he stopped by frequently throughout the dead ball season, and he just kind of popped in to see Belly and to show his support of her, and I think that was really nice, and it was kind of subtle as well. Yeah. That's why I think I'm Team Jeremiah, but I wanted to just get into some identity and relationships and growth as well that are in the show. So I hope you enjoyed. Comment down below whose team you're on and just your overall thoughts of today's episode. Be sure to follow my Instagram and Facebook at teentvdeepdivepodcast to see more fun content as well as to like and subscribe this video. Tune in for next week's episode. It's going to be about season 2 of The Summer I Turned Pretty. And thank you so much for listening. Bye!